I love a joke.
Say, Lucy.
Yeah, Ricky?
A tramp came up to me in the street and he said he hadn't had a bite in weeks.
What'd you do, bite him? Opening butler joke, buddy, come on.
The master says to the butler, Jeeves, did you put fresh water in the goldfish bowl? And the butler says, why? They didn't drink up what I gave them last night.
You know that ancient joke about the guy who saves his regiment, shoots the cook?
No. How does it go?
Hi, I'm John Malos, and welcome to this special edition of Connect with me. It's on the air, off the presses, with our friend Dennis Hart, just returning from Moore, Oklahoma, the devastation and the destruction from that EF5 tornado 2 months ago. We're back in just a moment on Connect with me on MeTV Fresno. We're going to talk to our friend Dennis Hart on the air, off the presses in just a moment. As I mentioned, he just returned from Moore, Oklahoma, the site of that devastating tornado that just wiped out an entire community twice in 14 years. Amazing pictures that he brought back from Moore, Oklahoma. However, I want to talk about the losses, two major losses right here in the Central Valley. Let's put up the graphic and we'll go to it immediately. 57-year-old Jeff Tenalian died earlier this month doing what he loves most, riding a motorcycle. Tenalian had a passion for motorcycles and cars. In fact, he developed that early on while racing go-karts with the Kerman Kart Club. He also had a passion for something else, art and sign painting and pinstriping cars. In fact, his last project was a 32 Ford Roadster finished shortly before his last birthday last month. His love for art also led him to various jobs with electric and neon signs. Eventually, he would own his own company, Commercial Neon Signs, one of the most well-known companies right here in the Central Valley. Tenalian was also well-known in the Armenian community here in the Central Valley. He was a board member at Holy Trinity Armenian Church. He, in fact, will be missed. Our condolences to his family, his wife Susan, and his son and daughter. In the meantime, another big loss. Kathy Joy Mullen, who was the inspiration behind the building of Break the Barriers, has died. She was 52. Mullen's sister is well known as well. Debbie Hagenrader started Break the Barriers back in the early 80s, listen to this, as a way to teach her sister gymnastics on a balance beam in her own backyard. Well, several years later, Hagenrader was able to build a 32,000-foot square facility now in Clovis, and it serves roughly 3,000 people a year, mainly to those people who suffer from some type of disability. Again, we send our thoughts and prayers out to the family of Kathy Joy Mullen. In the meantime, our main topic now, it's been more than 2 months since an EF5 tornado ripped through Moore, Oklahoma, leaving a 17-mile-long path of destruction and devastation. The video you're looking at here pretty much speaks for itself. There were 2 schools in the path of this massive tornado, Briarwood Elementary and Plaza Towers Elementary. The 2 schools were heavily damaged, but listen to this. There's a big drive on right now by residents to gather school supplies like pencils, binders, and backpacks as students get ready for a new school year. In fact, one church in the area donated more than $25,000 to teachers so they could restock their supplies. Moore still looks like a war zone, as you can see. Crumbled cars, homes, businesses, debris all over the city, as much of that city was just completely destroyed. 23 people in all killed, 377 injured. May 20th is when the tornado hit. Many left homeless. The area remains a complete disaster area. Live in our studio now, has just returned from Moore, Oklahoma, is our friend Dennis Hart, formerly of KMJ, formerly of KMPH, formerly of Channel 30. He's worked all over the place, but has he ever seen firsthand devastation like this? We'll talk to him about that, take a look at some of the photos that he took, and he also spoke firsthand to the residents, the media, and volunteers trying to help. We're back with our special program, Connect with Me, on MeTV Fresno in a moment.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean Dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Most of us can only imagine what kind of devastation the people of Moore, Oklahoma went through, not only once, but twice in 14 years. Dennis Hart has just returned, our friend.
Good to be back, my friend.
Yeah, I'm glad you're back safe and sound.
Yep.
So the devastation is just, when you look at it firsthand, it's unspeakable when you see it on video, but it's got to be different in person. The smell, the sounds, the devastation.
You know, I've covered a lot of things over 35 years as a reporter. I have never seen anything like this. I went to Moore. I was on vacation in June and July, and I had friends who lived in Oklahoma who were in their basements the night that that tornado hit in Moore. They lived just north of Moore. So I stayed with them, and I went down to Moore 1 month to the day after that EF5 came in and devastated Moore. I had to see for myself what it was like. It was amazing. It's like a bombed-out war zone, mile after mile. You can get into the middle of the neighborhoods and see nothing but devastation, no signs of life for miles. And when I got there, again, a month after it happened, volunteers all over the place, buildings still being demolished. But what you didn't see was what was heartbreaking. You saw pads of where houses used to be, debris on the ground, trees stripped of their bark. You hear about this, and you don't believe it can happen.
Did you see residents still sifting through their own debris?
Did indeed. When I got there, the first moments I was there, we were in one neighborhood. It wasn't the most devastated neighborhood, although there was nothing left. And I was walking up to a house that had been leveled. A man drove up. And he said, "Oh, I see you're back." And I said, "Well, what do you mean? I had never been there." Well, I was wearing my NBC shirt. When I worked for NBC, I picked up a couple of pullover shirts. He thought I was from the National Broadcasting Company. I said, "No, I'm from California visiting." He told me that his house was in the direct path of the tornado. He showed me the opening where his tornado shelter was in the middle of what used to be his garage. He said on the day of the tornado, he was at work, couldn't get home in time. His wife called him. His mother and sister and his wife were just getting into the shelter, which was in the garage. The tornado was bearing down on them. They closed the door of the shelter at the moment this EF5 tornado hit at 210 miles an hour, a direct hit on their house. Tore the house away immediately.
Wow.
They're trying to hold the door down because the tornado wants to pull the door off, and if it had, they would have all died inside. She's on the cell phone screaming, "It's on us, it's on us, it's on us." Somehow they kept the door closed as the tornado went over the top of them, devastating their neighborhood. They survived. And as I hear this story, I mean, I'm shocked, I'm emotional. I said, "Are you going to rebuild?" He said, "Yeah, I'm going to." I said, "Why? Why would you rebuild?"
And that's just the obvious
the question that
right?
everybody asks who doesn't live in Moore, Oklahoma, right?
Yeah.
Because his family is there, his job is there, his life is there, it's where he grew up. They know nothing else. Neighbor after neighbor told me this as I walked through their devastated neighborhood. I mean, it was a remarkable series of stories. Volunteers would come up to me and tell me heartbreaking stories about what had happened. Neighbors would come up. It was just remarkable to be there.
By the way, is that door still there? It survived.
The door survived.
And it saved their lives.
It saved their lives. Most houses and most buildings in Moore and in Oklahoma do not have these tornado shelters. In the old days, we called them bomb shelters,
yes.
right? Because we were worried about nuclear warfare back in the 50s and 60s. They should have them, but they don't build them because, number one, the soil is not conducive to easily building these. Apparently, it's porous enough where they will leak in floods and they will flood. And secondly, it costs a heck of a lot of money. Well, now, of course, after those 2 schools were devastated, 7 children died in one school. We're going to see pictures later in the show. But now they're going to put these shelters at least in the schools. But it costs thousands of dollars to build these things.
All right, first round of pictures here before we go to break. Let's look at the monitor there, Dennis. What are we looking at?
Well, this was on the east side of Interstate 35. The tornado hit on the west side of 35, west of town, on that May 20th, that Monday afternoon about 3 o'clock, and started going east. It jumped the highway, so we're on the east side right now. This is typical of a lot of what I saw. This used to be a house. There's nothing left. It hadn't been cleared away. You'll see that there's a piece of equipment on the left of it tearing apart another house. This was just one of the many pieces of rubble, piles of rubble. I saw 1,150 homes destroyed in a 1.5-mile swath as this tornado hit at 210 miles an hour. It was on the ground for 37 or 38 minutes. And that's remarkable for that length of time for a tornado to be on the ground, destroying everything in its path. The next picture we're going to see here is typical of what I saw in much of Moore. Absolutely nothing left.
What's in the foreground there?
Well, you see a tree, okay? These are debris from houses.
Okay.
A tree that's been cut down because it had the bark stripped from it. But in the background, take a look at the background. This 1.5-mile swath of destruction. On either side of the swath, you saw houses that were not touched. It was as if it was a miracle. This massive whirlwind would come through but leave houses intact on either side. You don't know why. You don't
They
know
weren't
how this
damaged
worked
at
out.
all?
Some of them were damaged. Some of them were not. The house you see with the blue roof on the left there, not damaged at all. Absolutely remarkable.
Unreal.
Let's look at the next picture here. This is what I saw in a lot of the community. A house taken down to its foundation. Absolutely nothing left here in the foreground. Again, more than 1,000 houses destroyed. A scene of incredible damage. Yes, some money is coming in to help rebuild, but it's far too early because there was so much devastation.
Talking about the federal aid.
Federal aid coming, billions of dollars, $2 billion damage in this community alone. Let's take a look at this. Here, this used to be a neighborhood. I'm taking a look down this block. Absolutely nothing left. A foundation on the left side, trees stripped to their bark, everything else devastated. It looks like it's been bombed. This took place in the course of seconds as this tornado came through this community, again going from west to east. It landed at 2:56 on that Monday afternoon, and EF5, they had 16 minutes warning, and that's as good as our technology can give us. 16 minutes to live is what these people had.
How did this thing affect you? Can you tell us in like a minute? We got to go to break, but how did it affect you personally?
I had tears in my eyes for much of that afternoon as I was walking through. I'd get out of the car and I'd walk into the neighborhoods. Volunteers were there telling me stories. Neighbors would be there, some of the people who'd lost their homes, all of them with stories about, I'm going to rebuild. And I'd say, why would you rebuild? Well, because this is all I know. This is my life. The volunteers told me horrendous stories about, children who had died in the school. Well, I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. But, you could not, if you were human, not go into that neighborhood and cry, and I cried a lot that afternoon.
All right, talking to Dennis Hart about Moore, Oklahoma, the devastation there, the tornado, the EF5 that took down that city on May the 20th. Back with more of our conversation in a moment.
And now, the Alan Brady Show.
Hi, I'm Alan Brady. You remember me from the Alan Brady Show?
Yes, if Alan needs any help.
Shut up, Mel.
Yes, sir. Shut up, Mel.
Shut up, Mel.
Yes, sir.
I had the best TV writers on my show. Rob Petrie, Sally Rogers,
Hey, I got it. Don't anybody move.
and Buddy Sorrell.
Whoa. Hey, you moved. I forgot it.
On the Dick Van Dyke Show here,
Alan, if you're...
Shut Up Mel, on Me TV.
Weeknights at 9:30, 8:30 Central on Me TV.
What's the matter with you?
Back here on Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno on this Monday morning. Dennis Hart, formerly of KMJ, formerly of Channel 30, formerly of KMPH, formerly of where else?
Let's see.
Lots of places.
NBC in Los Angeles, and there's Detroit, a lot of places.
So you've covered, the point is you've covered a lot of news stories, and I can make light of how many places. I've worked in a lot of places too, but never seen this kind of devastation firsthand. Did you see any members from the Red Cross or the Salvation Army on hand?
Absolutely. There were dozens of volunteers still there. They are still there in various neighborhoods.
Where are these people living now? Still in shelters?
Yeah, they are in shelters. They have gone to family residences somewhere else, et cetera, et cetera. It is a heartbreaking story. That's really the only word for it. It is heartbreaking because you hear these firsthand stories as you're walking through the neighborhoods. Everybody wants to come up to you and talk to you because they all have stories, et cetera. And we'll get to the school in just a little bit here. But everybody, in fact, a group of volunteers, and we'll see them in just a couple of seconds, came up to me at one point and they offered me a sandwich and a drink. They thought I was somehow involved with the community. And I said, no, I'm visiting. You want to give this to people who need it. This group of volunteers had been there since the tornado the month before. They told me they had given out, this was a church group in Texas, they had given out some kids and some adults 45,000 sandwiches and 45,000 soft drinks since they had been there in the month. And what they saw, the stories they saw, these were high school kids, church kids out of Texas. And I got tears in my eyes hearing their story about why they came up and all of this. People just there because people needed help.
Go to the next round of our photos here, Dennis, and pick up the action kind of where we left off before that last break, and put up the first photo there.
And again, there were 1,150 homes that were destroyed in this community of Moore, Oklahoma on May 20th by this tornado. This is one of the neighborhoods on the west side of Interstate 35. This is where the worst of the damage took place. The tornado hit at 2:56 p.m. in the afternoon west of the city and then started going east. It was on the ground for 37 minutes or so, which is an immense amount of time for this EF5 tornado to be on the ground. And it was going so slowly, it destroyed virtually everything in its path. Trees, look at this. This was another house leveled to the foundation, etc. In back of it, you see debris. This is over a several square mile area in Moore. Literally, you can be standing where I was when I took this picture and look all around you in a 360-degree circle. You see nothing but devastation. You do not see any neighborhoods in the distance.
Have they received any of the federal aid yet?
You know, they're starting to trickle in, but it's a very slow process because this is such a major, major damaged area. Here's another neighborhood right nearby, and what you see again, trees stripped to the bark, no sign of anything that's living there, etc. A house on the right, that foundation on the right, been torn away by the tornado. We have another, now here's another, this was really graphic. Here you see the remains of a house, literally devastated. I don't know if anybody died in this house. This was very, very common, again on the west side of Interstate 35. This tornado came in at 210 miles an hour. And bear in mind, it's remarkable that only 23 people were killed in this tornado. I say
have they
23.
recovered all 23 victims?
Yeah,
they have.
Yeah.
Okay, they found all the. Okay.
Now here's why the death toll was so minimal, if you will. Here's another neighborhood picture.
Yeah.
Again, just horrendous. Just absolutely.
The death toll was
horrendous.
minimal because
5 days. We have a very good weather forecasting system in this country right now. Great systems. And the national, one of the severe storm centers, the big one is down in Norman, Oklahoma, which is right next to Moore. 5 days ahead of this, on May 15th, they had put out the word that conditions were going to be just right on that Monday for a possible severe outbreak of weather. They had 5 days notice. On that day, on May 20th, in the morning, they put out a severe thunderstorm watch, which means that things are potential for this potential to break out. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they put out a tornado watch, which means conditions are ripe for a tornado. At 2 o'clock, a severe thunderstorm warning, meaning things are happening now. And then at 2:40, and this is the key, 16 minutes ahead of this tornado hitting, they put out a tornado warning. That's the worst possible event. That means it's been sighted. It's on the ground or it's on radar. They had 16 minutes in Moore, Oklahoma to live. In those 16 minutes, the tornado was west of town, coming right at them. People ran out of their homes, either to their shelters. Some started running toward the elementary school. 2 elementary schools were hit, Plaza Towers and Prairie. Parents foolishly began running toward the Plaza Towers Elementary School to try to get their children out. Well, by that time, the teachers had locked them down. They were not going to be able to get out of the school. They were in the interior of the building. One of the parents knocked on the door of the school, couldn't get in, trying to rescue his kid. He had a kid in his hand. The father had a kid. Realizing he couldn't get into the school, he ran back to his house a couple of blocks away, got into the house, had no tornado shelter. He got into the bathroom, into the tub, just as the tornado directly hit his house. He put himself on top of his child. The tornado ripped away the house, destroyed the house. Debris fell on him. Somehow he and the baby survived in that bathtub. He got there just in the nick of time as that tornado hit. I heard story after story of this, of people just being able to get into their shelters or into their interior rooms. They had 16 minutes. Now, bear in mind, 30 years ago, they wouldn't have had 16 minutes. We didn't have this technology, the Doppler radar.
And 16 minutes isn't long.
It's not long, but it's the best we can do. This is what our technology is. When I was back there, I talked to some weather experts and said, what do you think the future holds? What can we do in terms of technology? They said the best you can hope for in the future is maybe a half an hour's notice on a tornado. Maybe, if we can develop this new technology. But this is almost remarkable technology because in the past you had no notice. When
Right.
you saw it, that was it.
Right, that 16 minutes saved a lot of lives. There's
It
no
did.
question about
It
it.
did.
I want to talk to you about the coverage by the news media over there. See if you talked to any members of the news media while you were there and their coverage the last 2 months, especially when it happened back on May the 20th. Talking to Dennis Hart, just returned from Moore, Oklahoma. More on Connect with Me, 436-ME TV, option 11. If you feel like calling in on this Monday morning. Back in a moment.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Back here with Dennis Hart. And Dennis, what about the news coverage? Did you see any members of the news media while you were there?
You know, there were some television crews filming at Plaza Towers Elementary, and we're going to see some pictures of that school in just a minute here. It was the month anniversary, and they were out there, et cetera, but they were doing their job. I mean, I was visiting from California. I said hello to them, et cetera, and they saw that I had worked for NBC. But they said that this was the worst, and these were young reporters, much younger than you and I. Of course, that's not a high bar, is it?
Local
reporters
right? Okay.
talking about how they'd never seen anything like this. I mean, this was a devastating event. And bear in mind, they had this event on May 20th. A week later, another tornado, a series of tornadoes, hit south of Oklahoma City. Not Moore, it missed Moore.
Right.
It was just a horrific month for those people. And Oklahoma is right in the heart of Tornado Alley, as we know. Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, part of Iowa, et cetera. So it was just remarkable. Nobody, the history of this, Moore being hit twice with 2 major tornadoes in 14 years. What are the odds on that? I asked them, what are the odds on that? And does anybody have any idea why this happens? Is there something in the geology? Is there something in the geography of the area? No one knows. The odds on that were 1 in a billion that a tornado would come through that community, twice in 14 years and devastate it. Think about how big this country is. All right. Why would that community have been hit? But it was.
It was.
But it was.
Yeah.
And the saddest stories I heard were about the school, the Plaza Towers. And I think we have some pictures
Another
of that.
round of pictures. Let's put them up on the screen as soon as possible there. What are we looking at here?
Okay, this is the school grounds at Plaza Towers Elementary School. This is where you have 7 crosses because 7 children died when this school took a direct hit from this EF5 210-mile-an-hour tornado. Each cross has the name of one of the students. These were 2nd and 3rd graders.
Jeez.
Their teachers did everything right. They had 16 minutes to save their lives. They got them into the interior of the school. They had no safe room. There are very few safe rooms. By that I mean an underground shelter, almost a bomb shelter type thing. Very few in Oklahoma because, number one, the soil is not conducive to easily building them. The soil is porous and the rooms would tend to flood. Also, it costs a lot of money to build them. Now, they should have them after this. They're going to rebuild these schools, but 2 schools, Briarwood and Plaza Towers, got direct hits. Nobody died at Briarwood. 7 kids died in this school. Their teachers did everything right. They had barricaded the classrooms. They were in interior classrooms. It just collapsed on them. The tornado directly hit this school. Let's go to, this is the fence, and you have remembrances have been sent from around the country and around the world, put up on this fence. You see American flags here. This is where the TV crews were taking pictures, etc. Heartbreaking messages and heartbreaking things. Little fluff dolls, little teddy bears were sent here in remembrance of these kids. Here are some of the notices that were sent. Prayer for Moore, one of them says here. R.I.P. Notes that people have sent from around the country. You read these. Have to tell you, John, I was crying when I read some of these notes, absolutely in tears, because these are people sending their remembrances. Love will conquer all.
My God.
Love will conquer all. You hope that's the case. Volunteers all around this area. This is, again, you're looking into the school. Beyond this fence, you'll see what were the remains of the school. Here are some of those little fluff dolls, some of those animals that were sent, stuffed
teddy
animals.
Bears.
It's wonderful, the remembrances. Absolutely heartbreaking. Let's take a look at the next one. This one got me. Joplin loves you more. Joplin, Missouri, hit by a killer tornado almost 2 years earlier to the day. That one killed 150 or so people, injured 500 people. Joplin sending that. Here's the American flag. God bless Moore. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. Savannah, Georgia. Some folks from Savannah sent this flag that's up there. You see a lot of these messages. And I think we have one more picture of volunteers. Do we not have that picture?
Yeah, we got a picture of the volunteers.
Here are some of the volunteers
right
that I met there. These are school kids from Texas, okay? And they had come up 3 weeks earlier. They're sleeping in tents. They're sleeping in churches, okay?
Where are those volunteers from?
Texas, community in Texas. These were the group that had put out 45,000 sandwiches, 45,000 soft drinks. They offered me a soft drink.
Some of them look like college students.
College students, high school students. There are their mentors on the right side there.
Right.
There were large groups of these people around town. They just came up, and I asked them, why did you come up? Why are you here? Why are you spending your summer vacation here? And they said, because we're trying to help people, because we saw the damage. We knew that, one of the girls said, we knew that if this happened to us, people from around the country would come and help us. We had to go and do what we could. Again, these are people. It's so emotional when you talk about this, when you're in the midst of this. There is goodness. We hear about how bad our culture is, and in some ways it is, and we have some really screwed up people out there. These kids and other people that I saw there only went to Moore to help out. I have to tell you, the stories I heard, volunteers outside the school that we just saw, the Plaza Towers Elementary, these were Red Cross volunteers, elderly people, middle-aged people, some kids, etc., told me stories about some of the kids who had died, heartbreaking stories. One child died in the elementary school because his teacher had herded him into a room, but she hadn't closed the door yet. He heard another child screaming from a classroom across the hallway. He realized the child hadn't been rescued, hadn't been taken out. He ran across the hallway, unbeknownst to his teacher, and he saw this kid on the floor, the second grader on the floor, trapped underneath a desk. He couldn't get out. The kid threw himself on top of this second grader, at the second the tornado hit, devastating the school. This was a third grader. He died, saving the second grader's life.
Unbelievable.
You hear this and you cry. I cried when I heard that story. He gave his life for the second grader who survived it. Love has nothing, there's no greater love than that, is there?
Right.
So yeah, I had to go to Moore because I had to see this for myself. It was a terrible story, but it will rebuild. They will rebuild.
Dennis, thanks for sharing those photos.
Thank you, my
I'm
friend.
glad you're back safe and sound.
Thank you, my friend, for having me on.
You're going to be back next month with some more stuff.
We'll
Dennis Hart, formerly of KMJ and Channel 30, showing us those devastating photos from Moore, Oklahoma. We're back with more of Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno tomorrow. Have a great day.
Just about every morning, in just about every city and town across this great land, there are those who head to work early and get home late. They're the independent dealers of North America. Their priorities come from Main Street, not Wall Street. They work in showrooms and warehouses, not glass buildings or ivory towers. Their customers have names, not numbers, and their family's name might even be on the building. Their independence. They provide jobs, invest in their communities, pay taxes, and serve their neighbors. Their independence. With hard work, good judgment, and a little help from above, they're able to carve a living out of a storefront, some inventory, and their most valuable assets, their customers. Their independence. There was a time not that long ago when the MBAs, the consultants, and even a few suppliers had written them off. Surely the corporate giants with their massive resources and billions in sales would snuff out the independent flame. But those guys don't make the rules. Customers do. Now it's becoming clear. There's a change in the air. A realization that customers are demanding more. Who can deliver quality? Where did service and advice go? What happened to trust? Well, it's been right here all along. In every delivery and every handshake at each of the thousands of independent dealers of the Nationwide Marketing Group and its divisions. Working together to buy better, sell smarter, and compete tougher. So think outside the big box. Think independent and save.
Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.
When you're looking for Whirlpool innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified Whirlpool appliances save you energy and money and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
James Arness, his Marshal Matt Dillon.
They were looking for me. They're going to be back.
On Gunsmoke.
That's right.
Weekdays at 1 on MeTV.